There you go. So I'm just going to set these over to the side. And so when we were talking about,
Out the door, turn right.
there you go. So when we were talking about doing this get together, we were kind of brainstorming and wanting to talk about different things that we would have for the meeting. And my dad had asked if we would have a segment in regards to fraud, because I am a fraud investigator for a financial institution, and we just find it very important to make sure that everybody has a true understanding about fraud and how to protect yourself and not to be nervous or scared about what happens when fraud happens. I'm not going to pretend like I can make it so that way fraud will never happen to you, but I just want it so that way if it does happen, it's not so scary and what your plan of action is going to be. Okay? All right. So, the sections that I'm going to cover is I want to talk about counterfeit bills. We're going to talk about a card dispute and what you need to do, how to recover your money, card fraud, scams, and identity theft. So that's kind of the outline of what we're going to talk about, because those tend to be the highest forms of fraud that you experience. Okay, because everybody knows counterfeit bills are out there, and this is the funnest part of my presentation that I can possibly give you. So I have given you guys one that is in a sleeve. Please leave them in the sleeve. Do not touch them, because we do have to send them to the Secret Service. So if you touch them, the Secret Service will be getting your fingerprints. Just saying. But I also gave you a real bill as reference to the things that I will be covering, so that way you guys have an actual reference for these ways to identify a counterfeit bill. So the reason why it's important to be able to identify a counterfeit bill is because most of the time, if you are the one holding that bill and you go to pass it on, you're out that money. So you're at Walmart and they're giving you money, you want to double check before you walk away, because once you walk away, you're in possession of that money, and if it's counterfeit, you suffer that loss. So I want to cover on how you can identify a counterfeit bill. Okay, so basic information, 25% of the counterfeit bills are here in the U.S., most of them external outside of the U.S. because they don't know how to identify our currency the same way as they would their own. Most of them are created on a computer, so the security features are not going to be actually on the bill because it's just printed there. And most commonly, it's a $20 bill because most people think it's not worth the time doing anything less. But everything can be counterfeited because it's printed on a printer. So, tools to be able to detect a counterfeit bill. So the detection pen, everybody writes on it and it glows orangish, right? Okay, well, they are completely worthless. I'm just saying that right now, okay? It's more or less just coloring on paper, okay? So what the pens were designed to do is to absorb the starch in the document, okay? But if you press too hard, it depletes the pen. If it gets too dried out, if you touch slightly, make a note on something else, it's a bad pen. It no longer works. So outside of the first use on one document, it's no longer a valid pen. Go figure, right? Everybody relies on them. They're worthless. Okay, the next tool you can use is a magnifying glass, but who carries those with them, right? So the machines that most people rely on, all they can do is detect if there's something suspicious. Doesn't necessarily mean that it is counterfeit or not, but you're going to be the best avenue to identify whether or not, because you actually can feel the bill. You'll be able to see how much is actually the security features are there and not just for image sake. Okay, so on old bills, in every bill since, there's red and blue fibers. Do you guys have you ever noticed a red and blue fiber on the actual true bill? So if you look at it, there's very thin, tiny little red and blue fibers that are pressed in the paper, okay? That has been the best security feature that has ever been, because I've seen a lot of counterfeit bills and they can never get those red and blue fibers in there, okay? And then From $20 bills and above, they added in the security thread, that little piece of paper that's pressed in the paper, right? I was bad, and when I was little, I used to always slide those out. Yeah. But that's one of the security features. They can't duplicate that because it's actually in the paper. Okay? Texture. So if you grab the real bill, and on the corner around the border, if you use your nail and you just rub on the top, you'll be able to feel that there's actually a texture there. Okay, the reason for that is because the ink is pressed on. Counterfeit, it just gets absorbed into the paper, just like a regular piece of paper. So that's another quick reference to identify whether or not it's real. Okay, and then the micro printing. But like I said, most of the time, you don't have a magnifying glass, and that only works for older bills, but just so that way you have that there as a reference. Okay, so then we get into different series, so the newer bills, right? So then it gets a bigger head, that's what we call them. I don't know why, but we call them the big head series.
Because it is bigger.
It is a lot bigger. Okay, but they added in the watermark. So a watermark is you hold it up to the light, and you'll be able to see a reflection of a picture inside that little window area. Okay, it's positioned different based off of the bill, but most of the time you're looking at $20 bills. Okay, and then if you notice in the corner, there's like a colored $20 or 20 or 50 or 100. Okay, that actually rotates between different colors, so you want to make sure that it actually rotates. Okay, and then we get to our Monopoly money, where it's multiple colored. Okay. Everybody laughs and jokes because, oh my gosh, Monopoly money. Why on earth would we color our documents? Well, it's brilliant because it's called a raised note. Fraudsters will erase the information on the front of the bill and change a $1 bill into a $100 bill. Okay? So they took a value of $1. Now they made $99 out of that same bill. So all those security features that you're looking for, they're there because it's originally a real document, okay? So the reason why they did the multiple colors, because you can't get rid of those colors. So you can no longer change a $1 bill into a $100 bill because they don't have the color. And they pretty much stand out pretty good. All right, and then these are just the reference in regards to the resources to find the information. So if you guys, for whatever reason, wanted any of the references that I'm referring to, I can email you to them later, so figure who needs them today, right? All right, so we're going to talk about card disputes. So I don't know if any of you were aware, but you can dispute transactions with your financial institution. Doesn't necessarily mean that you can recover your money, but at least you should try. They don't, most of the financials, they do not charge you anything to try and recover your money. So I just want to give you some examples that you would find yourself in that are most common to dispute, okay? So I'm going to kind of tell you a story. So you go online and you see this fantastic advertisement for a diet pill. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to lose all of your extra weight, and it's going to make you look gorgeous right after, because magic pills exist, right? And all you have to do is pay $1.95 for the shipping and handling, and then that's yours, okay? So you receive the product and you try it, and it's awful because it made you sick galore. Then about 15 days later, you notice you got an additional charge on your account that you are like, what is this $89.95 from this transaction? I didn't authorize this transaction. Okay, so of course you're going to be very furious. Sorry, it's all the way.
What? All of them?
Yeah, there you go. Okay, so then you're very furious because now you've been charged your shipping and handling, and you've been charged $89.95. Yeah, exactly. Okay, so the moral of the story of what really happened there is secretly in the terms and conditions, they said, oh yeah, it's free, you're paying for the shipping and handling, and it's only a free trial time frame, not the actual product. So that's what you're now being charged for, is the so-called free product, okay? So here's some suggestions if you really do want to try out that product, okay? So make sure you read the full terms and conditions and make sure that you cancel the subscription extra early, because otherwise they're gonna try and charge you, okay? And then when you receive the merchandise, make sure to keep the shipping and handling from where you received it from, because they can no longer hide and you can send it back to them and say, I don't want this, okay? And make sure you get your proof of your return, because then they're going to say, oh, we never received it. Oh, yeah, I have proof that you did. And then finally, just use a gift card. Don't use your account. Then they can't charge you the $89.95. Okay? So those are some of my tips in regards to if you wanted to try those free trial products of any sort. All right. So the next common scenario that I want to cover is, like, obviously we like to travel. So in regards to third party reservation companies, okay, like Expedia. You purchase a hotel room with Expedia and you go there and they tell you, oh, actually we don't have your reservation. So then you say, okay, well, let's go ahead and charge my card. And you go home and you see that you've been charged from Expedia and from the hotel themselves. So now you've been double charged for the same stay. Okay, so a lot of the times what happens is just a miscommunication between that third-party vendor and your hotel. Somebody didn't complete their file for the day or what have you, okay? But some of the suggestions that I have, and this is pretty much for any claim that you want to make, is make sure you keep your proof of your reservation, and if you have it there with you, so then you can say it's with this hotel at this day at this time. It's kind of hard for them to dispute that with you right then and there prior to making that second charge. And email correspondence, make sure you keep that, because that's your proof of them either promising you a credit or what have you. And in regards to the double charge, you can try and recover your money, because now you have two ways. You can try and recover it from the third party, or you can recover it from the hotel, showing proof that you have actually paid for that hotel stay. And then the last one, okay? I don't know about you guys, but going to the mall kiosk, when you go in there, me and my husband, we're like, don't look at them, don't look at them, don't look at them, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay? Unfortunately, people like my father who go there and it's like, hey, what do you got? Okay, so you go to the kiosk, they sucker these people in. Yeah, I'm calling him a sucker. Okay, so he gets suckered in, and he's looking at the product, and then he's like, yeah, okay, that price sounds reasonable. Never is. But then he looks at his receipt, and he notices that there's an extra $100 that was charged than what was verbally agreed upon. But he had already signed the receipt, okay? So, not to make kiosk people sound so much worse than they already are, but they are pretty bad. Anyway, so what really happens with these kiosk individuals, they're going to have a verbal correspondence about how much they're going to charge you for, and then they're going to convince you that this is a great product. So then they're going to step aside and have somebody else ring that up, charge you whatever they actually feel like charging you, and you sign the receipt, and at the bottom it says no refunds. So you can't give them back their stuff. You can't get your money back. So what do? Okay? Well, unfortunately, me as a bank, I really can't help you too much on that. I'm going to try, but I really can't, because you're there, you're in possession of it, and you did sign a receipt that says no refunds. Okay? So here's what I suggest you do. Just in case I can't help you recover your money through a dispute process, you're going to need to go to a consumer protection. Okay, that's what the next step. So your bank can't help you, doesn't mean it ends there and you just give up and say, okay, they can have my money. You go to consumer protection, because that's what they're there for. They're there to protect you from shady people like the kiosk people that say, I'm going to actually charge you what I feel like charging you. Doesn't mean that they can recover it, but at least it's another free avenue of trying to recover your money. Okay? Any questions about card disputes or anything like that? Yes.
So if they do ring you up for more than what the agreed upon price was and you don't sign it, are you bound to pay that still?
I would, if it was me, I would go get the security guard. Seriously. I've had situations where people have made those claims and it actually ended up getting physically violent. So I would just go get the security guard and say, no, I want my money back. And then you have somebody there that's witnessing it. Honestly, I know that sounds really shady, but that's what I personally would be doing.
But as far as the bank goes, if you don't sign it, they don't pay it?
That's where it gets into a lot of questionable things because it's kind of hard who had your card, you were there. But it would be a flaw and a reason to argue the fact that, no, I didn't agree to those terms. That's why I left without the merchandise. You can't charge me if I don't have the merchandise, I didn't sign for it, right?
Okay.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I would do.
They're not gonna let you leave without, they're not, if you don't, if they do the transaction and you don't sign it, they're not gonna let you leave with the
Yeah.
product.
So that's where there's been times when it's gotten physical. So that's why I say, just don't look at them. Don't be like my dad.
But they're nice people.
So much beauty cream. So much beauty cream.
All right, okay. So we're going to talk about card fraud, okay? This is more or less just to inform you of how this happens and why it's happening so much nowadays, okay? So, card breaches. Everybody's heard that Target was compromised and Home Depot was compromised, but what does that really mean to the consumer, right? What does that really mean to me? Well, that just means that somebody hacked into their system, downloaded a virus that's obtaining bunches of card information, so that way they can collect a whole lot of people, such as 70 million and 5.6 million people's cards at one sitting, right? That's a whole lot of cards in very little effort, okay? So that's essentially what a breach means, okay? And unfortunately, that actually gets notified to people. There's about 50 that don't actually tell you that they're compromised. Why? Because it makes you look negatively against their image, their brand, right? Because they didn't keep you secure. So here's some few examples that were quieter notifications. And if you notice that there was actually medical compromises, okay? So it doesn't just mean that where you're going to do a card transaction or anything like that, okay? I'm not sure if everybody knows what a skimming device is, okay? But essentially it's an attachment that a fraudster will hook onto when you swipe down your card. So when you're swiping it for a actual merchant, the fraudster is also obtaining it for you as well. So if most of the time, those fraudsters are gonna hook it onto a gas pump on the furthest away from the cashier, right? So if you're going to a gas pump, make sure you're like right in the center, right where the cashier can see you at all times, because they're never gonna put a skimming device there, okay? Same thing with ATMs, they're unattended, so that way they don't get seen putting those on there. But those are such a smaller exposure in comparison to a breach where they download a virus. Okay, so the dreaded, is it a chip card or do I swipe it or what do I do? Okay, let me explain to you what a chip card is and why it makes a difference, whether you swipe it or if you dip it. I know, okay? Okay, so the swiping method has been used for many, many years, and basically your information is embedded on that particular card. So somebody who fraudulently obtains that information, let's say a skimming device, they have all of your records right there to be able to pull, to create their own piece of plastic and start using your card wherever they feel like, okay? The chip card now has a little piece in it that scrambles the codes constantly. So that way they can no longer just immediately make a new card for themselves. So this is why it's so important for us to actually start using the chip cards the way they're meant to be. Okay, now with that, it's not going to solve the problem of card fraud, okay, because there's been such a luscious way of committing fraud this way that they haven't had to worry about how to counterfeit chip cards. Once they can no longer do that, they're going to be switching over and we're going to be hearing more ways of compromising, but it's going to slow them down for a little while at least. Okay, so hopefully that explains the chip versus not. and the reason why we need to change. Okay, so what some security features or some safety tips that I would like to provide to you is if you're purchasing online, you want to make sure that it has the HTTPS. The S stands for secured, so that means that you're on their actual website. Okay. Make sure that you have antivirus protection on your computer. I strongly recommend that you don't actually do a Google search for anti-spyware protection, because all you're going to do for the first 50 page is download a whole lot of viruses, okay? So either take it to a credible place that can download it, or purchase your own at a store and then download it, because that's going to be the safest way for you to make sure that you actually are downloading the protection, not the viruses. And make sure you're using links that you trust. So unfortunately, there's been times where, let's say somebody's email gets hacked into, okay? So then, yeah, you trust this person, but they're saying, hey, I promise it's me. Will you click on this link? It's a pretty funny cat video. So you click on it, and yeah, it may pull up a cat video, but what it really did is also download a virus onto your computer. So you want to make sure that you were anticipating this email, or is from somebody that you know that you can reach out to, just to double check, because it could be from your financial institution saying, hey, I promise I got some money waiting for clicking on. You were anticipating. All right. So, continuation with the card fraud is if it's lost or stolen, okay? So if your card is lost, it doesn't mean that a fraudster who picked up your purse or stolen your purse or wallet can. You want to make sure that you contact your financial institution, not write your PIN on the means something super good. Okay? All right. So the most important for us to talk about is in regard. They take a financial gain that they do not. Fraud, but okay, I'm going to talk about different forms. The hey, love of the life, I promise. My uncle's dog's brother's friend, he's going to send you some money. Just send it back to me, okay? I promise, we're good. Okay? Online advertising. Okay, that's going to be more of like my father, he was selling his motorcycle on a yard sale Facebook page, right? And it's, hey, yeah, I promise I'll give you a cashier's check. It's good money. All you have to do is send me the leftover money. It's just overpaying you a little bit, okay? And then social media. Again, through Facebook, it's, hey, long lost friend, do you remember me from high school? No, I promise we were best friends. And online loan applications. So you're filling out all of your information because you're applying for a loan and waiting for that for the deposit to come into your account. But what they really just did is obtained all of your information, so now they can commit identity theft against you. Okay, so those are the biggest scams that are currently being exposed to most people. Okay, so I have the examples for you. So, you meet somebody online, and they say, and you've been talking with them for about 6 months on multiple different ways of communication. You met them in a chat room or on one of those dating sites. So then you feel comfortable, you feel like you're in a very strong, healthy relationship, and they say, hey, I know that you're financially strapped, so here, I want to send you some money so I can help you out. So you give me your account information, and I'll make some money put some money into your account to help you out. But unfortunately, after they send that money, they send you a response saying, hey, you know what, I'm sorry, bills just showed up. I need you to send that money back to me. So they instruct you to wire that money back to you, okay? So then you discover that all of it was fraud to begin with, because that so-called money that was originally deposited into the account were counterfeit checks, stolen money, what have you, and it gets pulled out of your account, but you sent your own money on to them. So then you're unfortunately a financial victim because that money you sent was your own money. Okay? So if somebody's offering you money and asks you to send it back, it's fraud. In any shape, way, or form, it's fraud. Because that original money that they're sending to you is not true money, it's fake money, it has the appearance that it's truly there, but it's not. A check can return up to 3 years after it's been deposited, okay? Yeah. All right. So just watch out for all of those signs. A lot of the times, there's inconsistencies in their stories or their communication. They're only going to be talking to you through non-face-to-face levels. And there's going to be poor grammar because most of them are not actual U.S. citizens. And after you are starting to question things, they're going to start being aggressive towards you. And they're going to make you feel less than what you should. Okay? This is more or less showing that what they've done to you actually is a problem. Okay? So unfortunately, when we're dealing with scams, and especially romance scams, there's the battle between logic and emotion. And unfortunately, emotion always overrules the logic. It never makes sense why they're doing what they're doing, how they received the money, why they gave the information they did. And that's why these fraudsters are so successful, is because they're hanging on to that emotion. Somebody is lonely, obviously, because they're out looking for a partner, somebody to spend time with. Okay?
Most of those things you would think people would just logically see.
Yes.
But working in the branch and doing loans with some of these people who are trying to fix the situation they messed up on, they really don't understand that person, they're so desperate for that love.
Right.
It's sad.
Okay? Awesome. All right. So the next one that we're going to talk about is advertising anything that you're going to be selling online. Okay? Let's say that you're on a Facebook communications for yard sales, right? So that way you can see what other people are selling and get it for a better deal for something that you're already looking for. Okay? So then you have the buyer who's going to say, hey, yeah, I would like to have that. However, I live out in New York City and you're in Utah. So what I need you to do is send that. I just want you to ship it out to me. And I don't know what the shipping and handling is. So here's some extra money. You send it out and just send me back whatever money is left over. Okay? Well, I don't know about you, but I'm not selling my item less than what I receive in money. So who's going to overpay and who's going to trust that they're going to actually send that overpayment back, right? What really happens is they send you fraudulent counterfeit checks or what have you, bad money. You send out your product or whatever you're selling plus that leftover money, and now you're out your product and that money, okay? So you want to make sure if you're receiving anything, you make sure that it actually is good money that's been deposited to you, that it's not an overpayment.
So that happened with Twig. So if he would have shipped his motorcycle to that person,
Yes.
they would have received the motorcycle?
Yeah, because he would have signed it over to them, so then they're now ownership of it,
And then the check goes bad.
and the
on
check
our
goes
end.
bad. Yep. And if he would have sent extra money, whatever the overpayment was, he would also be out that money as well because that check or
And if I
deposit was
spent
bad.
that money that I was counting on, I'd have to replace it to the bank.
Right.
I had somebody do that at Christmas time, and it was so sad because that was all his Christmas money.
So most of the time, that's what you want to watch out for, is they're going to claim that it's an overpayment for shipping. I don't know what this is for. I don't know how much it's actually going to be. But here, I know that you're a worthy person. I'm going to just trust you. Okay?
Tracy?
Yes.
If you're selling anything on like the Facebook yard sales or online, and somebody contacts you, wants you to do a PayPal thing, just put cash only, cash only. That stops it right there.
All right. So millions of people are advertising their stuff online every day. Just be aware of these fraudsters. They're trying to exploit you for your items, for your money, for your cash, whatever it is that they're after. Okay? So if you're going to do kind of like what my dad had suggested, if it's just adding cash only, you can also add in that if you want to be paid money order cashier's check. Okay? If you get paid in these means, you don't want to take the information off of the check. You want to find your own website for that bank, and you want to call them and make sure that they actually issued that check. Because if you just call the information on there, well, you're gonna call them and say, hey, did you issue this check? Yeah, we did, I promise. Okay? Also, the person will not want to meet you face to face, especially if they're local. They'll be like, oh no, I'm gonna have my friend come pick it up. They're gonna make some sort of arrangement. Doesn't make sense. And if you're going to do a face to face meet in the police department parking lot, because they're not gonna show up if that's where you set it up. Okay? That way you are also being protected and monitored, so that way you are in a true safe place.
Stacy, can I add on that?
Yeah.
Heber City, they have a camera set aside on one of the on the side of their building just for that, so that they have record when you show up to transfer something. They got video of the people that are transferring.
Most cities do offer that, and it's for your protection, because this is a problem. This is a growing problem, and the crime is being so intense. All right, so one of the last ones that we're going to refer to is, so on Facebook, we're going to say that Grandpa is very new to Facebook. He's never had one before, but because everybody's on it and he wants to see all of his grandkids and what they're doing, he receives a notification from his grandson saying, hey, I'm traveling and for some reason they've arrested me, but I need bail money because they're not going to release me unless I receive this money. But don't tell Mom, because she didn't know that I left the country. She didn't know. I don't want to get in trouble by her, because you know how Mom is. And guess what? Okay, it's just being a scam. So on Facebook, they reach out to him saying, with the scam, they will search around to see names and who doesn't really post, who has the furthest distance communication for that person. And then they're going to try and say, hey, you remember me? I promise I'm this person. Send me money. Okay? I had a situation with very similar to this example that I've given for an older woman who has some friends that she went to school with way back in the day. She's known them for years. She's kept in communications with them, but didn't have their actual phone number or anything like that. They asked her they asked my member if she would send them money. So she thought, this is kind of weird, tell me the situation. And so she was reaching out to this person and talking to him in regards to finding out the story of what's gone on. And so she felt comfortable sending that money on, okay? The problem with that is she used the same resource that she was contacted. You want to go to a different avenue of communication with that particular individual, okay? So a lot of the times these fraudsters in these scenarios, they're going to be like, well, just give me your account information and I'll be able to pay it back to you whenever I can. So now that you gave your account information to this fraudster, they're just going to take whatever's in there, because now they can log into your account, see where you have your money and pull it. Okay? So just make sure, and a lot of the similarities are they're reaching out to you. You didn't reach out to them. They're communicating to you on one form. You want to do through multiples, reach out, and if somebody's in trouble, then they deserve to be, their mom deserves to know, right? Just saying. Okay, so there's inconsistencies in the stories, spelling, grammar issues, okay? They get very agitated and aggressive, okay? All those similar signs that I've already referred to, okay? So to avoid being a victim, you want to make sure that you're skeptical, okay? Be aware, be alert, question everything, okay? It's not going to be coming across rude. You need to protect yourself from any fraud or anything that somebody's trying to obtain your money, okay? Because you work hard for your money, don't just give it away for free. And honestly, if it sounds too good to be true, it really is fraud, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people say, well, yeah, I know that saying, but I didn't think that was reference to this. No, it's in reference to everything. If it sounds too good to be true, it really is. All right. Okay, now on identity theft, okay? Okay, this one's pretty hard to kind of help coach and give explanations for. But up to this point, a lot of the references that I've talked about in regards to breaches, compromises, things like that, that's how, no matter how much you protect your information, doesn't mean that somebody else is doing the same to protect your information, okay? Such as the medical industry. They're not concerned about fraudsters and things like that at your home office, right? Because they don't think about those things. But that's where these compromises tend to take place, okay? So if you happen to lose your wallet, it is very important that you report it to the police department because they're going to try and commit the fraud immediately. So you want to report it to the police department. But you also want to contact your bank because if you have your information on your cell phone, you can get that shut down in motion to protect yourself from them actually being able to attack your information. But let's say you have your social security card in there with your ID. Now they have all of your information, so now they can open up lines of credit in your name, and there's no way to stop that if you do not properly report it, okay? So, and I'll cover that in just a second in regards to what you want to do in that circumstance, okay? If paying your bills through the mailbox, I'm sure some of you have mailed out a check through the mailing system, okay? Well, if you think about it, those codes at the bottom of your check has all of the information to your account, and you're just putting it in the mailbox, and you put up the flag to the fraudster saying, hey, I got something good in here, okay? So you want to drop it off in the actual mail office. That doesn't protect you all the way because once you drop it off there, then it gets handled by multiple different people.
We've had this argument. I
Yes.
made him go out and take the check out.
Yes,
Yeah, you
absolutely,
can't do
because
it
it's
the
going through many,
old-fashioned
many
way anymore.
hands, okay? But doesn't mean that you can't, it just means that you're taking a higher risk of there being a problem, of something happening, okay? Most financials offer what's called bill pay and auto pay. Bill pay is they send out the check for you. You just schedule, you pay it out of your account, but they mail out the check that doesn't have your account information on it. Auto pay is basically an electronic transfer. You set it up and you schedule it and it just automatically goes. No actual check is involved, okay? That's going to be the best way for you to pay your bills. And you don't get your late fees because the mail didn't lose your check. Okay, all right. So a security freeze. This is in regards to if your actual social security has been compromised or anything like that, okay? It lets the individual block access to their credit report. Puts basically a security code on there that you have to obtain in order for you to gain access or open up lines of credits, okay? That means that the fraudster won't be able to because they don't have that code, okay? However, that's not guaranteed or protects you all the time because not all creditors will actually pull a credit report, okay? So, doesn't happen all the time, but if it does, if they do, it's gonna limit how much exposure you truly have. And for a true identity theft victim, you don't actually have to pay for that to be put on your credit report. And if you're just wanting that security feature on your credit, I believe it's just $10 anyway. I think $10 a month. Okay, so here is some resources that you can go in case if you are a victim of identity theft, where you can help recover and get those off of your credit report and work with the police department in regards to preventing this from happening. Okay, and also recovering and preventing any loss to your credit report. Okay. This next one is resources for you to be able to monitor your socials, your credit, and all of those things. So that way you can identify whether or not somebody has compromised your credit. Okay, so in regards to pulling your credit, everybody's allowed to do it one time a year. Okay, what I strongly recommend is that's for all 3 credit reports. So don't pull all 3 at one time. You want to divide the 3 into individuals and take smaller pulls, so that way you're constantly looking at your credit report. That way you're notified earlier if there is a problem. But if you put that monitoring or LifeLock, any of those types of things, they notify you if there's any checks, any inquiries on your social security. Okay, and this last resource is how to dispute in case if there is something that should not be on your credit report. And like I said, in regards to all of these references, if anybody is wanting any of these, just give me your email address and I can forward them on to you with a description of what they are and what they do for you. Okay? And then the last one that I want to talk about, okay, is probably the hardest one for me to ever deal with, and it gets me the most upset in regards to, is elderly abuse or taking advantage of somebody who cannot take care of themselves. Okay? So, in regards to this, most of the time, the person who is committing the crime against them is actually their primary caretaker. So a lot of the times they're going to justify the actions that they do. Well, I went over and mowed their lawn, so I'm entitled to the $100 that was sitting in their purse. I live with them every single day, so I'm entitled to take their car. Well, no, you're not entitled. Okay, if they allow you to borrow the car to go somewhere, you have to ask every single time. Okay? And a lot of the times, drug is related to this particular crime because they're at their last resources and they're trying to get their next fix. And this is just the easiest way for them to get it because they know grandma or whoever is not actually going to report them to the police department. And even at that, they're not going to actually follow through with the heartache of actually pressing charges and going through with it because, well, they do take care of me. I guess I deserve it. No, it's not fair. And if you suspect or concern about a family member or anything like that, Adult Protective Services is in every single state. They are there to help and protect anybody who is a victim of this particular crime. So, any other questions about any other kinds of forms of fraud or anything that I have covered? Oh,
So
wow.
the adult abuse, the thing that you were just talking about,
Yes.
the senior abuse,
Yes.
so that's just online or is in their
The last one?
office? Yeah, the last one.
So in regards to that, they are in every single state. That's just their local, the direct website, but you break it down to your state and there's divisions within each state. And they come out and they'll meet with the person, the family, figure out what's going on to see the severity of how much is going on and how true the claim truly is. And if they need to, they will overrule the family and protect that person.
That's good.
Yes.
So I wanted you, because she won't listen if it comes from me.
Okay.
Hey, we attacked him, that's only fair.
Right, so just explain, because you didn't cover Apple Pay and Google Pay.
Yeah.
And show her how that's encrypted in a different way that sometimes is safer, not necessarily if you have a virus on your phone, but usually.
Right. So it can be, but unfortunately it can be compromised just as much, so I actually prefer not to use it at all. So I know that's not the answer you're looking for, but I don't recommend it to anybody for any
Apple,
reason.
what, say it again, Apple?
Apple Pay.
Apple Pay, Android, like Google Pay.
Yeah.
'cause-
Or
but
Amazon
it-
Use your phone.
Oh, okay.
Because
When she
it's
takes a
immediately
picture-
connected into your account, so if somebody hacks
Yeah.
into that password, then they can take over your account just they can't, as if you gave them your account information anyway.
But
So
isn't
if
it-
she takes a picture of her check
Mhm.
and deposits it, that's
That's a
okay?
mobile deposit. That's going through
That's
your
safe.
bank's deposit to be able to make a deposit directly through their app or their depositing process. So that's completely
That's
different.
safe?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's
I was
safe.
gonna say,
The only
because-
exposure you have there with mobile deposit is if you do not destroy that check. So if somebody physically steals that check, deposits it somewhere else, they're in possession of the physical check, they actually get to take ownership of it, and it's a whole process to try and get your money back. Okay, so that's the only thing that you want to make sure is you destroy the check after.
Okay,
And
that's
then it
good advice.
usually, it will encrypt with Google
Yes.
though. It gives
Yeah.
a different encryption on your card so that it can be safer.
It can be safer, but it's not the best way,
Yeah.
for sure.
Until people catch up with it. So,
Right.
yeah.
Yes.
I heard recently that people will call you up and say, is this Mrs. Jones? And you say yes. And they are recording all this, and when you say yes, they take that part of the recording and add it into a contract that they are, so that all of a sudden, you have said yes to a contract you know nothing about, and you owe lots of money.
I've heard about this particular thing, and most of the time what it is they have more information on you anyway, so it wouldn't have made any difference whether or not you answered the phone, yes or not. They already have the information. So really that comes into a civil matter dispute of you just simply saying, I was never there, you cannot prove that I entered into this contract, and you cannot hold me to a contract that I did not actually participate in. So that gets more into like your civil disputes between the parties, but I do not see a reason why they would be able to hold you to a contract if they only have that verbal yes. They're not gonna have your actual signature, they're not gonna have you actually there signing it and agreeing to whatever the terms were.
Okay.
So I don't see a reason why that would be a concern, and I have yet to come across a situation where that actually was participant in the crime that took place. Okay? Yes, Ruth.
So do you see through the cases that you come to, do you see them all the way to the resolution? Is that part of your job? Do you just start
Yes.
off?
Yes, I have to go testify in court
Once she
quite
sticks her
often.
teeth in, she does not let go.
No.
And so how long, how short, how long, what's your longest one story?
Well, in regards to how long it takes, on average, it's based off of your court system. So for me, where I actually personally investigate check fraud. So somebody who washes a check, steals a check, or compromises a check, transacts somewhere, or makes false deposits into accounts, things like that. On an average, if they can, for me to build my case takes a couple of hours. I send it to the police department and they identify who the person is. Then I have to wait on the court to go through the process. So one of my cases, it took about 6 months for her to actually get, from the time that she committed her crime, she was arrested, she went into jail, and now she's in her prison sentence for 25 years. So she's gonna be, that took about 6 months complete, but that was a pretty rapid because I was in a smaller city in the state. But in the larger cities, I'm still waiting on some of my cases from 2014 to be completed. Yeah.
If it goes across state lines, all the rules are
Yeah.
right out the window. That's why, like Florida, we're victim plenty because everyone retires there. We have the weakest state attorney's office in the state, Broward County. And we have elderly victims, and these are not elderly, like, disabled. They're, my dad is an accountant, he's 83 years old, he's as sharp as anybody in this room. And I preach to him. And we have a big gypsy problem in South Florida.
Yes.
Where it's crimes of deception. So finally, he called me a couple weeks ago. He said, these two guys came to my door and they wanted to reseal my driveway. And, I followed them down the street, 83 years old, walking his dog. Told them that they don't belong here, and I got their tag number. But he was 100% right, and I ran the tag number, and they're gypsies. And, but they get your information, or, the biggest thing is they'll tell you they're from Florida Power and Light, or whoever you think, oh, it's Florida Power and Light. There's a tree growing in my lines. Like you were saying, if you didn't call and invite them there, they're scam.
Yeah.
Every time.
Every time.
If it's Comcast or AT&T or whoever your cable company is.
It doesn't matter that they have a
IRS
shirt.
calling.
Yeah.
IRS does not call you.
Comcast is a scam anyway.
So my favorite story with the IRS, I just want to share this one. So my favorite story with the IRS is unfortunate yet very young girl. I want to say she was 18. She received a phone call from an individual claiming that they're from the IRS, saying that they are tracking her by her phone right this moment, that she has a matter of moments to pay them all the money that is owed. She needs to go to Walmart, purchase $1,500 in iTunes gift card and give them the information, otherwise they will be arrested. Okay? So unfortunately she did it because once again they took on the emotions versus logic, and she sent them the iTunes gift card. But if she would have paused for a second or disconnected, she would have been, why would they need iTunes gift cards? Okay? Yeah. So unfortunately she was out $1,500 because she purchased gift cards. Okay, any other questions? Yes.
I got 2 questions.
Yes.
So part of our operations at the hotel, we have a restaurant, we talk about bill fraud or bill, scams.
Okay.
Bills. We arm our servers with the pen
Yep.
in an attempt to, catch it. You say that they're only good for so long. What is an appropriate technology that I could implement that is used by multiple servers handling many $20 bills or larger?
Request for them to actually go through and look at the websites, and I can provide them to you, and make sure that they understand the difference of the bills, because really, they're the ones that are gonna actually be able to identify it and catch on to what is and isn't a real bill immediately.
It's
And I can
amazing
cover,
how much of a difference you can feel in a counterfeit bill versus a regular one, versus even just seeing it. You can feel the textures completely different. It's off.
right, so what I was.
Circulate that email, that website.
Yeah, so what I was referring to in regards to the starches, if somebody washes that document and it has a starch in it, it's gonna deplete on that pen invalid, or make it appear as if it's valid because of the starch in the actual document, or, all of those sorts of things. If they even put it too close to a regular piece of paper, it's gonna absorb that starch.
I heard a news report the other day that they've come up with paper now that even though they mark it, it still
Well,
shows good.
so in regards to an actual bill, okay, if you notice that the texture of the actual bill itself is different than a piece of paper, because it's not paper, it's actually a fabric, okay, a fabric.
They use Levi
Paper, mhm.
Levi material in the.
That's why it doesn't shred, it doesn't destroy, it doesn't lose all of those security features in it, because it's not really paper, but it is that mixture. But I can go over in fact all of these if you would like, so that way I help you identify, but the pens really are worthless.
Okay.
They're not gonna help
We've got
you.
a bill counter that apparently is very good at catching the bills before they go to the bank, so.
Oh, good.
We end up taking it on the chin. My second question is,
Yes.
obviously chip technology is a big step forward from the swipe days.
Right.
But I think there's technology, I've heard there's technology out there more current, whether it's retinal scan or fingerprint. Why don't credit card companies implement that as part of their issuing a credit card instead of chip technology or swipe?
Well, the reason for that, and this is just me in my opinion, and the reason why I would say the reason why they're not, is because we've even talked about having, when somebody comes in to do a withdrawal, that they have to give their fingerprint. Nobody wants to have their fingerprint on file, because then it's gonna get compromised, it's gonna go to Big Brother, and now everybody's tracking you. And it can be compromised and can be tracked down and used against you.
Well, they don't think that's already happening in the 12 missing one.
So-
Brother knows we're all sitting right here.
Right, so as a consumer, most people don't want to provide that up front for, even though it's in their best interest and to protect them, they don't want to provide it up front. So
And
that
the
would be my
difference
response.
is every time there's a way to counteract fraud, there's a way, they come up with 10 ways of how they can counteract that. It's just ongoing always.
Like the radar gun that the cops use, before they produce a radar gun that the cops use, they produce the detector to sell, to detect it. So they're working both ends.
All right, any other questions? Yes.
So in the case of people pretending to be from utility companies or whatever, saying that you owe money on
Yes.
your accounts, so, you owe $400 or whatever, what's the proper course of action to take, whether it be on the phone or in person?
Well, if you're on the phone, disconnect. You can write down the phone number. Most of the time, it's going to be a scrambled phone number anyway. But still, to protect yourself, or maybe you can provide it and protect somebody else from falling victim to it. Or in like this situation, like where she had provided, if they're on your doorstep, call the police department, because they can pick them up. If there's that concern, I mean, they don't want to have anybody be a victim of this person committing crimes. So if they're face to face with you, contact the police department. If they're on the phone or sending you emails, just erase it, disconnect, remove yourself from that problem.
So if there were actually people from the power company letting you know that your bill's
Right.
overdue, all you gotta say is, okay, I'll contact the office and get
Exactly.
payment.
Absolutely.
And then they should say, fine,
Right.
thank you very much, and leave, right?
Mm-hmm.
When
Yep.
I did collections for a while, there was a bunch of issues with people calling in claiming that they needed to pay immediately or they're going to jail. And I always told them, if you don't feel like I'm legit, you can go ahead and hang up and look up the number and call. Because if you go and search that number yourself, you're more likely to get a hold of that person. And they should be honest enough for you to just call them right back.
Isn't it typically by law, any collections, be it a utility company or a collection agency, it has to go through the mail system, not via the phone.
Not necessarily. It can go through the phone.
But-
as long as the call's recorded.
Right, and in that aspect, you would also know that you haven't made your bill payment for
Right,
a
so
while,
you're gonna
so
know.
you're gonna know
Right,
that somebody's
sure.
gonna be looking for you.
Yeah.
Not just out of the blue, they're coming after you. I mean, people let it be known that they're looking for you.
Yeah. Yeah, I haven't had a problem with it. One of my friends that lives in an apartment complex, they have people going through with like vests on and everything, looking like the power company, knocking on everybody's
Yeah.
door saying, you gotta give me $200 right now. You're
Multi-dwindling is definitely a key spot for a lot of those people because they can get multiple different people in a small network of area, little
Yeah.
effort on them.
They're not conspicuous because there's so many people coming and going all the time.
Yeah. All right,
But
yes.
The IRS never calls you up over the phone and disputes something that
No.
you've done.
No.
They're gonna notify you by mail.
Right.
Exactly. Awesome. Any other questions, concerns, or anything you would like me to recover? No? Awesome. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Really good.
I knew she'd be hit.
Yoo-hoo.
Let's see, Lynn, would you like to speak to your bit?
I'm so fucking tired. Okay? We're going out here because it's all like personal family shit now, okay? Oh, they're all going to the bathroom. Where am I going? Oh, there's some like fucking room here. Is it locked? Don't. I wish my 4G worked here. We're up in the mountains and it's fucking dope as fuck, but my internet doesn't really work here. I wonder if I go outside. I'm on their Wi-Fi. I don't know if it'll work out. I was thinking about like going pee myself. But I think I'll probably get in trouble on Twitch if I stream a fucking bathroom. A public restroom, at least. Who's this fucking lady? She don't know how to drive. Mike, is it still streaming? Oh, connected to chat. Is it getting choppy out here? I'm probably too fucking far now, huh? This is the shittier side. This view's not as good as the other. Stream's still good. I'm getting like 3 fucking chats. Are you guys just fucking with me? Let's go to the other side. Well, shit, I don't know. I think I can get up here. Pussy ass Utah mountains. I'll show you the other side, Murray. We're like up above the smaller mountains. Fuck Colorado. Mark ass bitch.